Hello, and welcome back to the Disciples of the Messiah Ministries. We're doing the daily exhortation, the daily commandment, going through all 613 commandments. We've missed a few days, but we're trying our best to get them to you daily. And our verse today is Exodus 22:28. It says, "Thou shalt not revile the gods nor curse the rulers of thy people." So with this verse, there's a little problem. The problem is with the King James translation, it says, "Thou shalt not revile the gods." Now, when we look at this, it doesn't quite make sense. We've got a little bit of a problem here. Why shouldn't we, especially when we get to learn what revile means? Revile means to, basically to blaspheme. So why are we not allowed to revile the gods? It seems contradictory, especially since the Old Testament, the law tells us to tear down the idols, to blot out the name of other gods entirely. So there's a problem here, and the problem is in the translation. If you look at the Hebrew, and we'll pull that up here on the screen, the Hebrew says Elohim Loi Sechalel, which means God, no revile. The word Elohim here, while it can be a plural word, it is undoubtedly a singular word when talking about God. And I'm going to explain that just a little bit. Elohim actually comes from the root word El, which means powerful or powerful one. An El can be a judge, it can be someone in authority. So El means power, and it has this, El means power, it's the root word. Eloi means God. And the word im is the suffix there, which makes it a plural. It's a singular plural word, just like we have the word deer. And it can be talking about a single deer, it can be talking about a bunch of deer out there. There are several other cases in the Hebrew where something is a plural word, but it is in a singular sense. You can go to Genesis. A lot of people want to use this and say it means that God is a plurality. Well, you can go to Genesis and see the first verse, Bereshit bara Elohim. It's the pronoun, the context tells you that it's a singular individual. It's bara, singular verb attached to it. And it's often singular pronouns attached to God. So you always know that when it's talking about God, it is in the singular. It tells us not to revile not to revile God, it's actually talking about God. And it's just a simple mistake that I hope that it was a non-intentional mistake that the translators, when translating the Hebrew, made, because we absolutely are to destroy the gods of this world, blot out their name, and do everything we can to overthrow the idols of this world. And so it's talking about God here. It's talking about the one true God, which is Elohim. And it says not to revile this God. Now, I would love to get into the rest of this verse, but I'm just going to talk about taking it one commandment at a time, splitting the verses up one commandment at a time. Thou shalt not revile God. And to revile, that's sekalel, and it means to slight, to trick, to trifle with. And what it basically is saying is not to think that you can trick God, that you can fool God, that you can get away with something with God that God doesn't see, or that you can put on a face for God. You might can fool everyone around you, but you can't fool God. If you're going to be real with anybody, it has to be God. God knows you from the inside out. God knows your heart. A lot of people says God knows my heart, as a justification, like you can't judge me because God knows my heart. Well, God does know the intents of your heart. God knows everything about your heart. And out of the abundance of the heart, the mouth speaketh. Out of the abundance of the heart proceedeth forth your actions. So God knows the root of your heart. And he knows just how corrupt it is. Jeremiah said the heart is deceitfully wicked. Who can know it? So you don't even know your heart. But God does. And that's actually a scary thing. That's actually a frightening thing, that God knows exactly what your heart is about. And for the majority of people, it's about themselves. And we can't fool God. We can put on a face for everybody else. We can tell everybody that everything's okay, that we're a good person, all the rest of it. We can go to church, we can pray, we can read the Bible. We can do a lot of things to appear outwardly religious. Jesus told the Pharisees, he said, you're like whited sepulchres. You're pretty on the outside, but on the inside, you're full of dead men's bones. And unfortunately, there's a lot of people who are like that. That are just full of emptiness and hollow. And they want to fool others into thinking that they're okay, that they're a good person, that they're religious, but they don't fool God. And so this commandment tells us not to try to trick God, not to try to fool God, because God indeed knows what's in your heart. Well, I appreciate you for tuning in. God bless you.